Cheap bass boats are a dime a dozen, with hundreds being readily available in most places throughout the United States. Should you take the shot and buy that old gal, or play it safe and get something a little bit more reasonable?
And right here is a 1994 Bass Cat Pantera 2 with a 2-stroke Black Max 200 Mercury on the back. And this thing is pretty sweet. And you see these types of boats listed all over Marketplace, anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000, depending on the condition. And I know what you're thinking, Grayson, that's not necessarily cheap. Well, my current classic $600 Sun Dolphin American 12 with the electric motors and the spot lock and the flooring, I mean, we're looking at a $5,000 to $6,000 boat. And you can get bass boats around that price these days. So today, we're gonna talk about the boat, take it for a rip, hopefully catch some fish, and discuss if you should stick with the classic cheap Sun Dolphin American 12 or take the leap and get yourself a late classic Bass Cat.
Oh, look at the smoke. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect, nice and easy. Gosh, look at that smoke. Goodness.
Yeah.
Don't you love that? Now, one of the best things about tiny, cheap boats is that they're pretty much maintenance free unless you get an outboard. Then you just have to worry about the outboard. There's very little to go wrong. And when you go and buy one used, you can pretty much look at it and know if it's a good deal or not. But an old bass boat is a significantly larger risk. There's all sorts of different things that can go wrong. And you want to research exactly what are the failure points of the particular boats that you are looking for. For example, in the Pantera 2, the drain down there, for some reason the wood likes to rot and get real soggy down there and kind of make a hole. So you would want to check that drain down there, and luckily on this particular boat, it's solid. And of course, just walking around the boat, feeling for any dry rot, any soft spots, specifically in the floorboard, and heading back to the transom and making sure that once it's out of the water, there are no cracks back here and there's just no water coming into the hole, and the transom is nice and solid, it's not soft, etc. So there's a lot more things to look for, and there's a lot more things that could go wrong. Usually the electronics and trolling motors and just everything is more complicated and more expensive and more cumbersome to work on. So you definitely want to make sure you know at least a little bit about what you're buying and what you're getting into, and be comfortable being a little bit of a mechanic, or at least very willing to learn. Now, most of the things that you can learn to do on YouTube, but it's something that you're going to have to take into consideration. On top of the cost of the bass boat, do you have the budget to fix and repair or even restore certain parts that you might need to do day one? And do you have the time to potentially do it yourself if you don't want to pay a shop to do it, which is pretty expensive? And if you're brand new to this channel, you might have no idea what a Sun Dolphin American 12 even is, or what I'm referring to when I say tiny boat. Well, my entire mission is to connect friends and family on the water easier and for less. And I talk about every type and style of small, portable, and affordable boats, along with how-tos, builds, as well as experiments. And here's only one example of a cheap boat that costs only $600 and fits in the bed of your truck. In fact, I just recently got this trailer and I've never even used it yet. Now, even fully modified out with the flooring, with the foam, with the rulers, with the cleats, with the GPS bow mount trolley motor, and the outboard, we're still only looking at a $3,000 price point boat. That's easy to move, extremely easy to modify, has no insurance, but of course it is limited on space, storage, people capacity, and horsepower rating. However, this boat has been ideal for literally thousands of boaters across the world because, well, not everybody has a giant lake or open ocean to explore. There's a lot of electric only lakes, small lakes and rivers, big ponds, and I even take this boat out in the main bay, ocean, and major lakes. Yes, I love the bass boat and we use it all the time, but this thing is just easy to own and use. Today we're talking about, of course, budget bass boats, but if you are interested in these tiny budget bass boats, I highly recommend you check out the links in the description. I'll link you to this boat, all of my different mods and accessories to create your own, and definitely subscribe to the channel because that's the only thing we talk about is affordable boats. But I tell you what, we've been having an absolute blast on this boat right here. That's my dad back there, and I don't own this boat. This is Unc's boat. This is my uncle's boat, and we can't get him to sell it.
Well, we get to use it, and that's all that matters.
Exactly, we get to use it anytime we want. He doesn't get out much on this boat anymore, so we do him a favor by running it, and we run it a lot. We love it. But it's a ton of fun. This engine just got rebuilt, and even after rebuilding pretty much the whole thing, you know, every once in a while it spits, it sputters, sometimes it's hard to start, so, you know, something could go wrong anytime. But that's part of boat ownership. Bust out another 1,000. That's always what people says boat stands for. And another thing you want to do, aside from making sure the boat is good, is remove the cowling and of course make sure there's nothing crazy. Look for specific issues that you specifically need to look out for that particular model in that particular year, because everything has their quirks. So take the cowling off, give it a good look, make sure the engine itself looks good, and look for those specific problem points.
This is not an outboard video, but a couple quick tests that you should do is always check the compression, do a water test to make sure that when you get up on the RPMs, the motor isn't bogging, and look for any leaks, corrosions, cracks, pretty basic stuff, but I figured I'd throw that in.
Another really important thing that I see people miss all the time is checking the trailer. Make sure it's not absolutely rusted through. Make sure it has safe road ready tires. Plug in the lights before you pull off. Make sure they work, because that can be a pain in the butt. I've heard of many people passing on deals because the lights don't work. I mean, the lights are pretty easy and cheap to fix, but you do want to make sure that your trailer is road ready. Also, check your state registration. This is probably the #1 mistake I see new boaters make, is not knowing their state's laws and not getting the proper documentation from the previous owner. For example, here in Missouri, you need a registration sticker on your outboard motor, on your hull, and your trailer. But certain states like Alabama, you don't need a title for your trailer. But certain states like Florida, you do, but you don't need registration for your motor. So you want to make sure that if you're buying from a state that doesn't have proper documentation, you either know that, know how to get around that, how to fix it, whatever. Just really, really, really make sure that you're going to get a boat that you don't have to worry about. You don't have to worry about getting pulled over, not having the proper registration on your boat, motor, trailer, whatever. That's a huge one. But other than that, doing specific research on the boat that you want to do, knowing what areas to look out for, and being willing to put in a little bit of work, a little bit of elbow grease, and a little bit of money to keep it running and have a blast. I think if you see that old bass boat, you should go for it. Why not? But this is not financial advice, so it could be the biggest headache of your entire life. Just don't blame me. I just like old bass boats.
Overall, if you are interested in a bass boat, I say go for it, but make sure you do your due diligence, research that particular model, so when you show up to inspect it and do the water test, you have very particular things that you are looking out for. Don't expect it to be perfect. It's a cheap old gal. But if you are interested in the budget, portable, and affordable tiny boat options, I highly suggest you stick around because you might like this channel. Anyway, guys, as always, all the glory goes to our Father in heaven. Tight lines, and God bless.